Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Jason. This is Monica. If you guys if you guys don't know who we are, we're both nurses. We're from New York City, and we moved to California about 7.5 years ago now. And the reason we're making this video is because we want to talk about our reason for wanting to move back to New York. And it's official now. Like, we're really going to move back to New York.
So there's no turning back.
Yeah, and we just spent like the last 3 weeks on a vacation. We went to Bora Bora, we went to Georgia. Before we went to Georgia, we had to fly back to California to get a change of wardrobe so that we can then go to Georgia, pick up our kids, because they were staying in Georgia for about almost 3 weeks while we were working our butts off to try to prepare for this vacation. And then we went to New York City. We spent 10 days in New York City.
That was by far the best time we've had on our New York City vacation since we moved.
And part of the reason why we want to keep visiting New York as often as possible is because how long ago? Maybe, I think it was like 8 months ago or so, at the beginning of the year, or at the end of last year, Monica and I, we filmed a video where we talked about why we still want to move to New York. Like, we want to leave our high-paying salaries here in California and move back to New York City. But during that time, we kept hearing on the news how bad the immigration crisis is in New York. So we wanted to see it for ourselves, and we still do. That's why we still continue to monitor the situation, and that's why we continue to visit New York. So we did that this time around, and we spent 10 days in New York City. And what we decided to do was travel up and down every street in Manhattan. We traveled through Brooklyn, we traveled through Queens, we traveled through all of the 5 boroughs except for Staten Island. And what we saw is not what the media portrays. It's not what you see on the news. It's not what you hear on social media. And I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
We did see some, what we think could have been part of that immigration population downtown when we were close to Soho.
Yeah. And
we have some clips of that. But they're just standing or just sitting in the streets. And my brother, so I still have family in New York City. My mom and my brothers, they live in Harlem. And I constantly ask them, do you guys see like all these immigrants in the streets? Are they causing any problems? And my brother's like, sometimes I see them, like on the east side of Harlem, but it's not really problematic at all. So I feel like, if my family who, they go to work, they commute, if they haven't reported anything to us, I feel like then it's really not that problematic at all. So I feel like they just blow it out of proportions.
So let's talk about our experience. So we landed in New York City. We got our car at JFK, and Monica's mom, she lives in Manhattan, right? So we didn't see anything on the way to Manhattan. And then the following days, what we decided to do was take a double-decker bus and take it around all of Manhattan. And that's when we noticed, that one day is when we noticed, I believe, right?
We were down in Soho?
Yeah, we were closer to Soho. And yes, it may have appeared to us like there were migrants there.
The aggregations there, it's possible that there were migrants, but we can't be too sure.
Yeah, it's like you can't be 100% sure that they are migrants because they're not carrying badges with them that tells you they're migrants. But, based on our assumption, that's what it looked like. However, that was not the case all over New York City. We went through Times Square, we went through up and down all of the avenues in Manhattan. And if you know anything about Manhattan, you'll know that the avenues, if we go up and down, basically the way that the streets are made up is that you have streets going from east to west, and then you have avenues that are going from north to south.
Basically like a grid.
It's a grid, right? So if you go up and down the avenues, you'll go up and down every single street. So that's what we did. And we went up and down every single avenue in Manhattan. We did not come across the overwhelming population of migrants that we were expecting.
So what really is the issue with the migrants? Really, I have no issues with the migrants coming at all seeking asylum, right? Although what the media portrays is that, it's becoming unsafe in New York City. That's the main issue that we're worried with because we have kids. And if it gets to the point where if we feel like it's really unsafe, that we're opting in moving somewhere else outside of New York City. We're still moving in the East Coast, but we'll look into moving maybe like in the suburbs, upstate, or maybe even in Jersey.
And that's exactly why when we visited New York, we also chose to visit all of the boroughs, and we left the city. We went to New Jersey, and we went to the Hamptons. That's one thing that we really enjoy doing when we go to
Love
New
the
York.
Hamptons.
If you have never been to New York, you have to visit the Hamptons. When you think of the word luxury and wealth, like massive amounts of wealth, there is nothing like the Hamptons in our opinion. Like we've been to so many different
We've
places.
been to Atherton, California. We've been to Santa Monica. We've been to Bel Air and Beverly Hills. And I feel like nothing can really quite compare to the Hamptons.
But yeah, we try to make it a trip every single time we visit New York to visit the Hamptons. And in doing that, we try to see if we could see ourselves living in New Jersey or in the Hamptons or anywhere outside of the city of New York.
Upstate. Yeah, I have family upstate too.
But I want to get back to the fact that the reason we left New York to begin with is because we felt like we were making decent money. Like Monica worked at Mount Sinai initially in first job. Then she went to New York Presbyterian. I was also working at New York Presbyterian before we left. That's one of the highest paying hospital systems in Manhattan and in New York in general, right? So we were making what we thought was a lot of money in New York. However, our cost of living was pretty high. We felt poor, even though we made a lot of money in New York.
And we had some debts too.
So when we moved here, the goal was to pay off all of our debts. We had about $82,000 to $84,000 in student loan debt combined. And then before we moved here, we bought a car that was $76,000. That's the Volvo that we're driving right now. It's a Volvo XC90. We also had debt because we purchased a Chevy Spark. That was the first car before this one, right? Chevy Spark. We returned that car because it was like a really basic model where you had to roll down the windows. And it was a 4-seater. And I wanted a bigger car. I wanted an SUV because I said we can put all of our family in here if we want to go on road trips. So we bought a Buick Enclave, and that car I think cost us something like $34,000. No, yeah, $34,000, and we ended up exchanging it to then buy the intermediate version of it. And that's the one we drive till this day. That car cost us $15,000. But we lost some money in the transaction when we sold the Buick Enclave. So it was a little bit of debt because of that. Then, before we moved to California, we ended up buying a Volvo XC90, the car that we have right now. This car cost us $76,000. Monica was livid when we bought this car. She did not want us to have it. And now, looking back, I think it was a terrible decision to buy this car because it was an expensive car. We didn't need such an expensive car. We could have bought a used car. We could have bought a used Volvo XC90.
Yeah.
But the reason we bought it is because, in my opinion, like I wanted the safest SUV. I wanted an SUV and I wanted the safest one. So by the time we moved to California, we were more than, how much did we owe? I think it was over $160,000 of debt. When we moved to California, we put everything on our credit cards. Everything. Because I had gotten a job so quickly after getting on California license that we decided to just pick up everything and move. We left everything. We left all our family. We left a lot of furniture. We left everything. And we were living in an 800 square foot apartment. Right? So then we packed all our stuff. We moved here. And within 8 months, both Monica and I were working at Kaiser. Kaiser is the highest paying hospital system in Sacramento and in most of California. So right now I'm making $103 an hour. Monica's making
$133.
Yes. And people ask us, why would we leave such high paying jobs to go back to New York City?
So I feel like growing up in New York City is equally a blessing and a curse. Let me tell you, I feel like if we grew up somewhere in like the middle of nowhere in Alabama and we moved to California and then we decide to move back, we're at a positive, right? Because in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, wherever that is, we have that leverage because the cost of living is so low. But since we're moving from Sacramento to Manhattan, we're gonna be kind of in the negative, so we have to really work our way around. We had to spend all these years build up our wealth just so we can move back. And I sometimes kind of wish like, oh, what if we never were from New York City? If you've ever lived in New York City, in Manhattan, especially, or let me just say New York City in general. No other place will ever compare.
Yeah.
If you grew up there, you spent a whole lot of time living there. Nothing else will ever compare.
But I should say,
Yeah.
especially if you live in Manhattan and you live closer to Central Park, because
Other people could say like
no, because
other
I
people
have
say,
plenty of coworkers that are from New York and they don't want to move back
You,
because they didn't experience what we experienced.
or if you live in a really good location in New York, Brooklyn, because Brooklyn and Queens have some good.
Think about it. Our rent was negligible compared to what other people
Well,
were paying.
okay, fine. Say that, but I feel like some people still like oh yeah, like I mean my coworker, he's from Queens,
Yeah.
and he's from like Elmhurst, whatever, and he still wants to move back.
Yeah, I would say it's like half and half.
Yeah.
The people who grew up in New York City, who really took advantage of everything that New York City has to offer, and then moved away from New York City, will probably never find a place that will replace what it feels like to live in New York City. I think so. But we ended up moving, and we had all this debt. We paid off all of the debt, and we were working a lot of hours before we moved to California. After we paid off all the debt, some people asked us on social media, like, why is our net worth so low, being that we have such a high salary? And part of that is because we paid off the debt, and then we chose not to work as much as we did used to.
Well, and then why did we choose not to work? So people were saying your net worth should have been higher, right? Because we're both equally making a good amount of money. We're high income earners. Both of us were double income. You would think by now would be millionaires, but here's the reason why: because of our kids. And if we can pick family versus money, what do you think we're gonna pick? We're definitely gonna pick family first. No amount of money can replace my family. See, the thing is, when I had my daughter, we weren't working. I was a full-time, we were students. Jason was unemployed. We watched our little girl grow. We were there every single day for her. Now, when we had our son 15 years later, I felt like time passed so much faster because we were both working, we were both hustling. It's like a whole different lifestyle and a whole different dynamic. So I didn't want to give up, is that I want to see my son grow. Just like we saw our daughter grow, right? Would you agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
And look what we had to do also in order to take a vacation for ourselves, right? Like, we had to fly our kids to another state where our family lives. And this was in Georgia, right? Because that's where my mom is now. We had to fly them out there. We went on our vacation. When we returned, we had to go pick them up from that state. And then to go see our other family, we then had to buy more plane tickets to go to see our other family in New York, right? So it becomes really expensive now when we have to do things like that. And also when our son goes to school, it is so much better to have family around. Our family is so supportive, both on Monica's side and my
People
side.
that you can trust, right?
They are so supportive. Like, if we need them to watch our kids, they don't even question it. And we can trust them. That's the best part. Like, we can trust both of our families to take care of our kids and to watch over them. So again, we mentioned this before, but that's part of the reason why we want to move back to New York. And then if we live in New York, my side of the family is now living in Georgia. At least New York is only 2 hours away from Georgia. Like, I looked at the time that we left from Georgia and we arrived at Monica's apartment in New York when we picked up the kids. And it was about a 5-hour flight and commute altogether from my sister's house in Georgia to Monica's mother's house in New York City. And if it only takes 5 hours for us to be able to do that, then we can live in New York City and just travel to Georgia every now and then to drop off our kids whenever Monica and I want to work extra hours or when we want to take a vacation together. It just makes things so much easier. Someone asked me on YouTube a long time ago, how is it that we balance work and investing and still being able to go on vacation? And sometimes you have to be willing to put your investments aside in order to have the experiences that will leave lasting memories. Because there was one year where we invested like $80,000, close to $80,000. But we also took like $70,000 worth of vacations. And the reason we aren't investing in the stock market as much this time around as we used to is because we're investing in our business. So the last 3 weeks, or even more, a little bit more than that, we haven't really focused as much on the YouTube channel because we've been focusing on the other platforms, right? We've been focusing on Instagram, on TikTok, not TikTok as much as we used to because TikTok's a whole nother story. And you know, Facebook
Facebook banned us.
Yeah, that's another thing I should mention. So
Yeah.
we were posting a lot on Facebook in short form, and then they banned us because the people who are on Facebook are usually like older demographics.
Yeah, and you know, I've already addressed this before, so I'm not gonna address it anymore. But sadly, a lot of the older population too, I think they banned us right after I posted the video of my hourly rate, which is really odd because I guess maybe they reported that I wasn't providing accurate facts, but it's factual. But I think that was the main video that got our Facebook banned. So we're not gonna put any more effort into Facebook because it's just not even worth it.
Yeah, so, but going back to like why we started posting on those platforms and less on YouTube is because it seems like the return that we get on, you know, views and followers from those short form platforms is much higher than what we get from YouTube. Unfortunately, it sucks
but you know what let me just say this, guys. Our YouTube audience, you guys are solid and you guys know us. I feel like you guys know us on a different level. The people that are newcomers who come to our TikTok or Instagram, they don't know us, so they just assume who we are, and it's really sad because it's so much negativity. I feel like we get so much negativity in other platforms than YouTube, because YouTube, we started off on YouTube, but the problem with YouTube is that is eating up Jason alive because it's been so difficult for him to really be consistent with YouTube. It's a lot of work, guys.
What you guys see in a video is like a fraction of what really goes on behind the scenes, because now I have no thumbnail editor. I'm editing my thumbnails again. We're still filming these videos. It takes so much time, guys. Whereas a short form video, literally within an hour, less than an hour, I can have a video edited and published.
It would hit like 1, 2, 3 million views too, but it comes with a price. Because it's a lot of negativity, and I've gotten to the point where I'm just immune to it. I'm just like whatever, because I know the people in YouTube, again, like I said, you guys are solid, and I really appreciate you guys, our community in school, the people who really know us, and we know the people that we've helped before we even started our course. Is just like what keeps me going, because I know there are people out there who actually know us and know our true motive.
So let's get back to New York. Let's talk about how we're gonna support ourselves when we go back to New York, because before we left New York, we felt, like I said, we felt poor, and we felt like,
so we were jaded New Yorkers, okay? We were really unhappy living there the last few years because we were overworked, underpaid. We couldn't afford to live in the city. I think we just could not appreciate it, right?
Yeah,
would you say? Yeah. We were just so jaded.
Yeah, I agree.
And now coming back, when we were visiting, we're like, okay, whatever, we're gonna spend $5,000 on this vacation. We do whatever we want. We could pay for my family's meal. We could pay for a rental, not have to worry about. It's just so crazy when you have money and you don't have to worry about anything, and you could just pay for other people. It's just like such an ease.
Yeah, and this is why, people say that money does not buy happiness, but let me tell you, when you are able to just treat your family and spend over $5,000 in 1 week and not even be fazed by it, when you can fly your family out to go help you with your kids and go on a vacation to Bora Bora and spend $20,000 on Bora Bora, when you can do those things and not even be fazed by it,
and not bat an eye, right?
And not bat an eye, and still continue to invest your money, that is the definition, in my opinion. That's the definition of wealth. And we may not be on paper, like our net worth is just shy of like $800,000 right now, but we can survive on one income. If one of us chose not to work, we could still survive on one income. However, when we go back to New York, the plan is that I am not going to work as a nurse anymore.
Maybe.
Yes, maybe. Because, I may have plans to like pick up a per diem shift in like every now and then. Yeah, per diem position in one hospital per like every 6 months or so, because I want to like
don't tell them that. Nobody's gonna hire you.
Because it's fine. Because I want to experience what it's like to work as a nurse in New York City. We left New York City 7.5 years ago. I don't know what it's like anymore. Things may have changed. The ratios may be better. Not that I think so, because I still talk to my coworkers who live there and who work there, my former coworkers, and they tell me that it's not much better. But we're still gonna go over there, and I might work, but Monica is gonna choose to pick up a position that's gonna allow her to at least get health insurance for us.
So unfortunately, I'll have to take one for the team, and I will have to work full time, but it would have to be my dream job. I saw a couple of openings that I was really interested in the hospital. I'm kind of a little bit like kind of geeky here, but in the hospital I really want to work at. I don't want to say right now, but eventually when we start planning to, you know, our move closer to the date, like tell you guys more. But I've been scouting some job openings, and I saw ones. It's a 40-hour position, Monday to Friday, 10-hour shifts. It's an endoscopy, GI endoscopy, outpatient, and it sounds really promising. And the starting salary was $130. It ranged from $130 to $150. So I was hopeful to at least, you know, at $130, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Right. But with 10 years of experience, it could be a little bit higher. Yeah. So the pay is pretty good for New York City. But my biggest worry is that I have to work full time.
Yeah, and with $130K, she should be left with like $7,000 a month, somewhere around there. But let's talk about like our cost of living, because right now we're spending about $4,500 a month, $4,600 a month on our mortgage. We talked about previously how we were planning to possibly rent out our house, or maybe sell it. We've decided we're actually going to sell it. When we sell the house, it's going to provide us with at least $400,000 in additional funds, because we can use that money to support our lifestyle for at least 2 years. We're going to use
and when we say lifestyle, it's going to be very minimal, guys. Yeah. We're not going to be traveling.
Well, you say minimal, but $6,500 for rent is not minimal.
Well,
right?
Well, we're not going to be traveling. Yeah. Right?
That's true. Okay. Because the plan is, like I said, Monica's going to be working, and I'm going to be focusing on growing something bigger than this YouTube channel. I mentioned it in our community page, but you know, I don't want to talk about it yet. I'll let you guys know.
Somebody's gonna steal our idea.
Exactly. I'll talk about it in a future video when it's something I've got some substance. Yeah. But my hope is that will allow us to grow our income by more than we could ever imagine. And we're gonna live off of a portion of the equity that we have on our house. And we're going to do that for 2 years. We're going to use part of it. I believe it's like $130,000, $150,000 of it to pay off our rent. And the max budget we have set aside for rent, I know you guys are probably going to think this is crazy, but it's $6,500 a month, because we want a at least 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment in New York City.
In a good neighborhood. Yeah. That's important, because we need to put our son into a good school.
And we tried to look at something that we could purchase, but there's no way we're going to be able to buy something
in a neighborhood that we want.
Yes. Yeah. With the number of bedrooms that we want either.
Yeah. I guess it all depends. If we can get our son in the gifted school, we'll probably have more options outside of like the Upper East Side and Upper West Side neighborhood that we were planning to move in.
Yeah, and I also want you guys to remember this. We have, at the moment, the only debt that we have is our house.
Yeah. When
we sell our house, we will have no debt. Right? We will have, our net worth will be around $950,000 by the time we move, projected net worth. Maybe $1 million depending on how much we invest. But when we sell the house, that's all going to be liquid, right? Like liquid cash, except for our 401ks. We can't like withdraw our 401ks, but everything else we'll be able to. And a portion of that, like I said, is going to be allocated just towards the rent. Monica's income is going to be allocated towards, you know, all the utilities and everything else that we want to do. And then we're going to have a remaining, like, I think 300,000 or so, or 280,000 or so that we're going to be using to invest. We're going to invest it in our business. We may invest in real estate, but that is the goal.
I was just going to tell Jason that because his siblings, they just purchased homes in Georgia, and we can also kind of compare it here in California. So Isn't it crazy how you could live in Elk Grove and Roseville or Rockland, have a $600,000 home, a nice home, like 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, nice big backyard, and feel like you are already living in wealth.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, when you live in New York, you're in a little shack in a shoebox apartment, and even if you're making like both of us, 6 figures, we're still feel like we're poor, like as we were when we were living in New York City 7 years ago. So it's just so crazy how just by moving to another city or state, you could feel far wealthier. Like, let's say, for example, your brother, he makes the same amount of money he does living in New York, and he moved to Georgia. He was able to purchase a nice big home, and his salary is still the same.
But a lot of this is by choice, because we could choose to...
We could choose to live somewhere else.
We could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we could choose to live in a place where our rent is going to be like, let's say, $2,000 a month.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could choose that, but we tried that. That's why we moved to Sacramento.
So, that's why this is for people who are going to say, like, why are you moving back to New York? At least we can say, it's tried and true. We know we want to live in New York City because we've lived somewhere else before. Piggybacking to that, I didn't get a chance to say, piggybacking to that comment that they said that, why do you spend all this money in cash? I get that you spend all this money on cash on vacations, but why is your net worth so low? And I wanted to say this, and I told Jason this, because he's not really into traveling as much as I do. Well, he does, but he'd rather invest our money than travel, right? I feel like that's such a guy thing. But the reason why I wanted to prioritize traveling is I wanted to travel while I'm still young and while we're still able-bodied. I want to enjoy our winters in Lake Tahoe snowboarding while our kids are still young, while we're still young, because we won't be able to do that like probably 15 years from now.
Yeah, because let me tell you guys, if it were up to me, we would have invested all of our money. We would probably have a net worth of like $3 million by now.
He's not, but at the same time, I am not. I have coworkers who work 10 years younger than me, who are working every single day, losing their youth, losing their
but they're working every single day to spend all of their money, not invest it.
Well, not one of my coworkers, but they just, some of them just want that status too. But you're also giving up something. So I feel like to get to that status, you have to give up something, right?
Yeah, but we're giving it up now. Yeah, because we're working now more than, we're going to have to work now more than we would have in our prime, just to catch up. You gotta be willing to give it up one way or another.
Yeah, it's really
you gotta be willing to choose. However, I will say that as much as I wish we would have invested that money, we still invested a lot of our money, right? Relative to the general population, we still invested a lot of our money because our net worth is getting close to $1 million soon, right? And for people our age, that's not common. And we got to experience things that I would not have been able, and we would not have been able to experience if I didn't give up some of those things that I really wanted to do, like invest, right? Anyways, this video is getting really long, so we're gonna make a follow-up video. If you guys,
we'll see.
if you guys have any questions about it, then just let us know in the comment section.
Bye.